Welcome back, everyone, to Spiritual Context for Worldly Chaos. This is part 5, the last and final part of Megan Leatherman's 2023 interview. Enjoy. Yeah, no, and that's what's so important about you is that you know that at one point it's challenging, but at another point it's doable. You know, this not only is it doable, it's probably essential to you. And that's the thing, like we are human. We have bodies. We are animals. So the things that we actually have to feed on, meaning to stay alive, are the things a lot of times the only things that we think nourish us, or we don't really understand how all these other things nourish us. And so it's essential to your well-being, your quality of life, to embrace the things that you enjoy, even if those things do not amount to anything major in a way that you would want them to in like a capitalistic society, right? Because it's crazy to me, especially being an artist, because I'm going from actor, which is already an impossible job, to an even more impossible job as a tarot reader and a psychic. You know, it's like there's no structure, there's no principles, like it's all everywhere, you know. So it's hard to find any kind of ladder in this situation. So I can't look at it necessarily. I mean, maybe somebody else could, but it's hard for me to look at it as something that eventually I will break open the heavens with. If that ever happens, that's fantastic. But I mean, because if that ever happens, it's because of something that I probably already was doing, you know, because it's my higher purpose. You know, if that kind of thing ever happens, I wouldn't even look at it as Vanessa. You know, because it's me walking towards a light that if that's the end of the light, well, great, okay, you know, but it's not because of the light. It's not because of breaking open the heavens that I'm walking this way. You know, there's some drive inside of me, something that I get up thinking about this, and I go to sleep thinking about this. I study this all day long, but at the same time, I go out with my dog and I look around and I'm like, oh, well, that would be the Page of Wands, or that would be the Eight of Cups, or, you know, and I eat, sleep, breathe spirituality, you know, not just tarot. And I think that's like where you're talking about the feeling of the higher purpose. It's not, I don't turn on at 9, you know, like 9 from 9 to 5. And then when I'm done, I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. It's like, hopefully one day I'll retire because that's what I would like to do. But it's not to get away from it. It's because I've either, you know, I'm just done. Maybe I've you know, transcended that part of my life and now I'd like to explore a different one. But if we don't look at it like that, we can't ever change the society. We can't ever, you know, create the jobs, especially people who are job creators. We can't create the jobs that kind of help people in this position of the artist, you know, because the artist is almost forced to be a part of this society in that capitalistic way. And a lot of our minds don't work for anything that's really lucrative, except for if you're a discovered talent. You know, and that feeds this other idea that of the higher purpose. Well, I don't have a higher purpose if somebody didn't discover me, or if somebody didn't, you know, if the spotlight wasn't put on me. And that's actually kind of funny because I tell people this, and I don't think this is something people think about a lot. If somebody chooses you, you don't have a lot of say after that. You're the one that's being controlled now. And even if you see, you know, actors and musicians and any kind of, you know, artist that's really made it, because those are the people that we see as being, you know, the most famous, because that's just, you know, they're venerated in that way. There's so many of them that have come out with horror stories, that have had to break ties with their record labels. They've had to, you know, go all these different routes because even though they're living in a purpose, their higher purpose, they're being controlled. So if you think that waiting for it is you know, your way of validating it, saying, okay, now I know I'm really going the right way, when somebody sees me and they're like, oh, you clearly have a talent, then you're almost giving away your higher purpose to somebody else. And not to say somebody seeing you is a bad thing. It's just it shouldn't be the reason you walk that way or the reason you take that on, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think so many of us are like waiting and hoping to be chosen, that when it happens, if we haven't sort of embraced ourselves already, then yeah, things get really wonky and weird fast. And another thing I'll say that I thought of when you were talking about that was that I think part of our purpose, all of us right now, is really to divest from capitalism and to really start experimenting with other ways of being and working and earning income. I mean, personally, like I've had to really, my partner and I, like we earn a lot less than we probably could because we have chosen to work part-time to be with our kids more, to just be less stressed. And yes, that comes with a lot of privilege, and we have things that other people, that was a choice we could make. And we're earning a lot less than most of our friends, but it's a choice that we are comfortable with, because I think as the world continues to shift, there won't be the same expectations around job security or income that many of us are finding that we're having to work a lot harder to meet our basic needs. And that's not because we're lazy or we're doing it wrong. It's just that the world is changing. And so those of us sort of at the edge or the margins, I think, have to start becoming a little more comfortable with the idea of maybe earning less and relying on others more, or earning like what is just enough, and how can we like really embrace the sweetness of having more time for ourselves, of really like appreciating the art that we make, choosing ourselves, as cheesy as that sounds, and that those things like are gonna erode the system over time, because this is like untenable for most of us. So to that, like collectively, I think there's purpose around working and being in different ways so that this machine gets interrupted, and starts, I don't know, falling apart or doing what needs to happen, so that people don't have to suffer so much.
Hope it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope it just gets ripped out. And like, I mean, universal basic income needs to be implemented. There's so many things that need to be implemented. It's crazy. It's just, having $140 billion like Jeff Bezos, he could cure world hunger with half of his money. Half. Mm-hmm. And that's just crazy to me. It's crazy that so many people who've made it are the people who are actually keeping this system in place by dodging taxes, by, and there's a lot of good going on too. There's plenty of people who are making a lot of money and giving it all away. But at the same time, not all of money goes to completely impoverished or refugee situations. But we're in 2023. There is absolutely no reason anyone on the face of the planet should be in a refugee situation. Mm-hmm. So the fact that we're even feeding this situation is because we have a broken system throughout the entire world. Mm-hmm. So we're basically, putting a Band-Aid on a gash and saying, oh, well, we're doing the right thing by helping this, marginalized or really traumatized group of people. And of course we are, but at the same time, why is that happening? Mm-hmm. Why on earth is that happening? That is absolutely asinine to me. It makes absolutely no sense. And it's not supposed to make sense to you, because it's not a sensical governing system. It doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. It literally just hoards. Mm-hmm. That's its job. Its job is to protect property and goods, and to hoard those property and goods, and then to feign this idea that, there's care going on throughout the world that, just somehow someone's thwarting. And it's like, okay, no, no, I think this system, I think all of you know that you are all the problem. Mm-hmm. All of you are the problem, and it's just, that's how it's set up. And we're set up with currency. So we can't, and I'm not going back to bartering. I don't need 100 apples. Unless it's like, we can kind of find a way to balance that, say that there's currency and there's barter systems, because we absolutely have got to stop with this insane materialistic turnover, and with this inability to properly dispose of things, So there's so many things, like you said, with nature in general, like that right there is what's killing so much, and it's our imbalance. So to work with somebody like you is if you, what is that? If one person wakes up, everybody wakes up. Right. And the way you can heal the world is by healing yourself. If each one of us, had that time with ourselves, and not everybody wants to heal themselves. Not everybody has that objective in life. But if I'd say that a good portion of us do more than there are people who don't want to. And if that's what we can do, if we can heal ourselves, a lot of us need to heal ourselves psychologically, financially, so that we can help in the process of healing more basic needs so that more people can get to a place where it's just psychological and just financial. There's so many people that just need a bed, just need a cup of tea, just need some food, before they can even talk about the pain going on in their heart and in their minds. Mm-hmm. And, that's our privilege. A lot of us in America, obviously not everybody, but a lot of us in America have that privilege of we can go to a therapist or we can communicate something that's a bit more intangible because we have at least enough. But even then, it's all dangled in front of us. Like, well, you live in the richest country in the world, so you must be. And it's like, no, we're all living hand to mouth too. We may have it look better. There might be an easier flow. Like I can go to the supermarket at any point, but also how much of the supermarket's getting thrown away. So we're also part of a lot of this problem because we've created something that has to look good. How much food is thrown away just because it doesn't look good? Like what's that Imperfect Foods that came about? That's awesome. How many fruits don't look the way that we expect them to look, but because we've been set up that way, we would say, oh no, not to that fruit. And all these other countries that seem to be more second and third world are actually way more in tune with the way things actually are. I think it's so interesting. Like Americans really need, I think, your work, the higher purpose work, because we have that idea that everything amounts to something so much greater, whereas a lot of other places are much more satisfied and feel a lot more connected to their community, to their family. They feel they don't get kicked out of the house at 18 years old. They don't get sent credit cards for them to sign up to, so they can start getting into debt immediately. There's more protection involved in a lot of other communities, and I think that we have it because we're the number one. That's all gonna drop. That's definitely. It's already starting, but because of that, I don't think we don't assume at all that anything can really teach us. It's just that we're not doing it right. Whatever it is, we're just not doing it right. And so it's so important that you have this work because it's just a different, I can't even relate to it. I have to kind of come at it with an open mind and an open heart.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate everything you shared.
It's a tough world, huh? It's tough, especially for people spiritual people who want to see everybody not only happy, but nourished. That's really what it is. You can't be happy all the time. There's no way, even, the most devastating things are, death or famine or plagues, what we just experienced with COVID. You can't stop those things. So you can't expect anybody to be happy all the time. What you can expect is that they are fed, that they are accepted, or that they're protected if there's people in the environment that are predatory. That we have a base morality of boundaries where we can have a disagreement, but it doesn't result in some kind of violence or some kind of bigotry, right? And there's so many things that are just so obvious to us that just we keep fighting over, or people keep trying to defend these really ridiculous pillars that are just so outdated and unnecessary. There's so much. Also, if you want to talk about capitalism, there's so much money that's untapped because of these issues. You're talking about $45 billion runs through the wellness community, $45 billion. Most of that's probably goop. So it's there's so much that because there's no structure in it, because there's not, the support isn't there. It's still, considered woo-woo in all these sorts of ways. So there's all these people that are incredible at this kind of work that don't even get to explore it because it really is difficult to make your own life off of it. So if you are listening and you do feel like this is the direction that you want to go, it is difficult, but know that you'd be one of the pioneers. You'd be making it easier for other people, like you're making it easier for people to have a higher purpose that's not capitalistic.
Yeah. Thank you. I think those of us who are earning anything from work that feels meaningful to us, it's helpful to talk about it and talk about how, and to normalize the fact that we're not millionaires, or we don't need to be making, 7 figures or 6 figures even, or whatever, that it's enough to do work that you're proud of and that's honest and that, is enough for you right now. And to just start where you are with what you've got. That's great.
I love this. I'm so glad that you were able to come on, because I was searching for somebody who was actually talking about a higher purpose, and that's when I found your website, because I've been trying to go through these really intentionally looking for, relatable major arcana and relatable, like how do we really look at this in a way that we can see it out in the world. And it was just crazy. I was like, oh, higher purpose. This is exactly, there's not many people that's their I mean, maybe not your entire, MO or your entire vibe, but it's because there's also nature, there's also the ecosystem, there's also living in equality with all of it, and not just, going into a higher place. But and I hope you have a lucrative part-time career. I'm hoping many people who hear this will consider reaching out to you, because it is a very important thing to learn, is what it is that you're called to.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us, everyone, and I hope to see you next time. And as always, as above, so below, blessed be.